Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of Parenting Autism. I am here with my hubby, Chris. My name is Sandy, and we are your hosts for today. If this is your first time joining us, we want to welcome you, and we're happy that you have found us. And if you have come back to listen to more of our podcasts, we want to say thank you. And we're seeing some reviews come in, and we want to say thank you for that because that helps other people find us. So we wanted to take today to talk about a few things. Our son Bryce, who is 6, is now being homeschooled, and so the last 6 to 8 weeks have been pretty changing for us, and we've got him into therapies now. And I wanted to just kind of talk about the difference of the therapies when he was younger versus now that he's 6 years old, because I do find it to be quite a bit different. And we're also going to talk about just things that we're thankful for on this autism journey as we just celebrated Thanksgiving and we have a heart of gratitude. So on that note,
and
babe,
we also have a couple of products that we want to share information about.
Actually, we do. We've had some people that have reached out to us and have wanted us to try some of their products, and we actually reached out to someone for a tool to help Bryce with his writing, and so we're going to give a couple of reviews, and we're just grateful to have the opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm. So if you hear our voices a little crackly, I just want to prep in advance that Chris is starting to get the cold that I just got over, which is why we haven't recorded for a couple of weeks, because I was quite sick. And but we were healthy for the holiday, and we're grateful about that. And then I am having some vocal cord issues. I've had it for quite a while, but we've now got a diagnosis for vocal cord dysfunction, if no one has ever heard of that. And anyway, I'm going to be seeing a specialist, and we really need my voice to be okay, especially if we're going to do a podcast. So anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on in a nutshell. But let's dive right into talking about Bryce and his therapies and the changes that we're seeing that have been positive, actually, for the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. So prior episodes, we talked about him being homeschooled. And right on the heels of that, like literally the day that we withdrew him from school on Monday, he began his language and occupational therapies on Tuesday. And, you know, you and I have talked about what he was getting at school compared to what he's getting in a private service. There's really not much of a comparison. No,
the public school was really, they have such a limited budget and limited time with the kids that they really can't do a whole lot with what they're given, I guess. Yeah,
and I think they count on language development being around their peers. I mean, that's what we were told, which is one of the primary reasons why we were putting him into a school setting and took him out of private language and occupational therapy. But we have seen and heard with Bryce that his language is really, as far as sentences go, like he is using full sentences regularly now. I'd say we're on the verge of being able to have a conversation with him. If, you know, we can have short conversations now, like we can do a back and forth, probably 2 to 3 times. On a topic that interests him. Mm-hmm. It's definitely still to where if you're talking about something that interests him, you can get, like you said, a volley back and forth about 2 or 3 times, which is wonderful. Yeah. But if a random person just came up and started asking him about something that he has no interest or knowledge of, he wouldn't even know to ask, what are you talking about? Like it would be, he's not there. But in our world, it's progress for sure that he's able to talk to us more about things. And we're trying to expand his topics of interest. And so he actually has quite a few, which helps, you know, because the more topics he has, the more possibilities for developing friendships and conversations down the line.
Yeah.
Chris is probably going to say yeah and not a lot during this one because he's not feeling so good.
I'm listening and I'm
You're
listening.
Agreeing? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They can't see your head nodding, but yeah, he is over here nodding away. So anyway, so the language has definitely helped him, I'm going to say, since, for the past 2 months. And then the occupational therapy at the school, I think they were primarily working with him on like cutting and writing and things that are school related tasks, I would say, or skills, where getting him back into private therapy for occupational therapy was a big deal. And he used to cry almost every week and big crocodile tears where he didn't want to go because they work his core and they have him work in the gym. But the last 2 weeks, he has really been open to going and he's been excited about it. I think he now has built some trust with Miss Jacqueline and she's doing things that he likes. And he doesn't mind doing the work, for doing the things that he also likes. So I'm really happy about that because he's even asking to go.
Yeah, I think that the public school really, I don't know how much core work they did with him, like his stomach muscles and things like that, because he has a weak core. I think they're geared. I don't think they have the equipment for core.
I don't think they did anything because nothing like that was in his IEP.
Whenever they were talking to us, it was all about his pencil grip or zipping zippers or, using those types of skills, which is fine. He definitely needs those. But I don't think they had a dedicated gym that they could go to in the school or any of the larger pieces of equipment that normal OT places have.
Or the time, like you were saying, because, when you're in school, you have limited time to work on other skills when you're supposed to be in the classroom and learning. So I get that. So I think it just all really worked out because Bryce, he needs this. And I think that was a question we were asking ourselves. What does he need more? Does he need a structured school environment where he can learn from peers, which is what we were encouraged to do by a lot of people? Or, does he need those outside sources where he's getting a full 3 hours a week, one-on-one, of language and also with occupational therapy? And I would say we've received our answer that doing the private services is serving him much better.
That brings to mind, like, for instance, we go to the playground and we talk about how, before he really didn't interact with kids. And now, of course, he still has trouble with it, but he's more open to following the kids around or doing whatever they're doing, which is good. But, what goes along with that is speech, So if you don't have speech and language to talk to other kids, then it is going to be difficult to interact with them, not knowing what words to use or how to communicate with them. So I'm sure it's frustrating to him on some level, and he really doesn't show that. But, now that he's in speech and he's homeschooled by me, not that he wasn't learning language at school, he was, but getting the extra hours of speech, I think, is helping him with his sentences and his language to where, in the future, maybe in the next 6 months when he goes to the playground, he'll be able to say, yes, I'll play that game with you, or no, I don't like that one.
That's a really good point. In fact, I took him to the playground today and we did meet up with one person that he knew, his little friend, but there were other kids there. And Bryce still speaks somewhat in some broken English, and he also speaks in the third person, referring to himself as Bryce. He definitely still mixes up his pronouns. And for another child to not understand that, when he's saying you do something, he's really referring to himself and vice versa. Kids are going to get confused.
It's hard.
So it's those kind of things that if we can continue to work on his language and where his weaknesses are in that, it will give him more of an opportunity to become better at being social. Because today he definitely just follows, like literally, physically follows whatever the other kids are doing. And he also just repeats and mimics what they're saying. You know, he's excited, and he's having fun and he's running around, and that's wonderful. But I can also know that the older kids see the difference in him, where the younger kids who are 4, they don't get it still. But those who are 6 or 7, like this little boy wanted to play tag with him. So he kept saying, do you want to play tag? Do you want to play tag? And Bryce is not even acknowledging him. And so I just explained, he doesn't know how to play tag. The boy's eyes about bugged out, and he's like, he doesn't know how to play tag? And I'm like, no. He has autism, and so it's harder for him to learn how to play games. But he might want to play. And he goes, I can explain it to him and I can show him. I said, well, that would be great. So he was trying to tell him, and I'm trying to get Bryce to actually look at him and listen to him. But then finally I just said, so Bryce, he's going to run. And then, then if he touches you, then you're going to be the one that will chase next, to try to explain it that way. And for Bryce, he just started running and following them, and he had fun. Now, he did misconstrue what tagging them meant. And so he kind of pushed, because he didn't know the amount of strength to use. So then when I saw that he was like using 2 hands to push in the back, kind of like illegal contact in football, he didn't hurt anybody, but he honestly didn't know. He was kind of observing. So then we stopped. And so then we took time to explain to him, I did, to gently do it. Do it gently. Be gentle. And you tag like this. And then we did some examples, me and the other boys, so they were right there with him trying to help teach him. I thought that was a beautiful thing, But that's what Bryce requires. And that's why I'm so happy that he has ABA now, which is the behavior therapy, because this is where, we do want to get them out to the playground with Bryce too. So we can learn ways, and they can maybe have some insight that we don't have that will help Bryce learn how to interact and play with the other kids, in an appropriate way. And I know we're going to hear that word appropriate and inappropriate a lot in our future, but there really is a proper way to play, and then a way that, you can't play if you want the other kids to play with you. And so that's definitely one of the things that is on my list for ABA to help him with on this round, which we just got that started 2 weeks ago, I think. We're either 2 or 3 weeks in. And of course, Bryce missed a week because he was sick. So, but we're really pleased with who he has, and he's responding to them very well, and he's asking for them to come. So he's looking forward to that. Sorry, it's my vocal cords. Go ahead, take it.
So everything is on schedule now and going pretty smoothly. Bryce knows what to expect each day of the week. And as a matter of fact, the lady with the ABA company is gracious enough to put a visual schedule together for us, so that he'll know exactly who he's seeing and basically what comes next each day. So.
Yeah, which helps him tremendously. He wants to know what's going to be happening each day. Yeah,
he'll recite it at bedtime.
I was going to say, he's sleeping in his bed now by himself. We'll update that, which is wonderful. Every night, it's not an issue now. So that's a beautiful thing. And it's still in our room, but hey, he's out of our bed and he's into his. And so now we've asked him to start praying at night. And we have found that each night when he prays, he starts with Dear God, and he ends with, I don't know how he says in Jesus' name we pray, but it's really cute how he tries to say that. But he will say, give us a good day. And then he'll list off all the things that he wants to do the next day.
Yes, that's very cute.
Which is really, really cute. And the beautiful thing that we're celebrating is it's his own original thoughts that he is putting into that prayer. He knows how to start it. He knows how to end it. But in between, it's all Bryce. And if he forgets something, he'll go, oh, no, oh, I'm sorry, dear God. And he'll start over and put in whatever thing that he left off the agenda for the next day. But it's great. And it's really teaching him even how to have a conversation and form his thoughts when he's talking to God. So I wanted to go back for a minute, babe, and have you talk about the font that we've been using for Bryce, because we talked about OT and his fine motor skills and how this is helping him and with school. So go ahead and share that.
Yeah, so when I started homeschooling Bryce in September, I realized that he was having difficulty writing each individual letter and starting in the wrong places and not going all the way to the top line or the bottom line. And so I thought, wow, I wonder if there is a font out there that I can get that will tell him exactly how to write it, because he's a numbers kid. And so what this font is, it's called Alpha Strokes. And what it is that there's a little dot for your starting line, and then there's an arrow with a number 1. So, for instance, like the letter T. So you'd have a dot at the top and an arrow pointing down with a number 1. So you know that you're supposed to start at the dot, draw your line down first, and then there's another arrow for the cross of the T that has a number 2 on it. So that tells you that this is the second line that you're going to draw, and the arrow points you in which direction you're supposed to draw it. It's a little difficult to explain over the radio or in a podcast, but if you visit their website, alphastrokes.com, you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So I reached out to them about their font, and I didn't realize that they had a lot of other products to go with it. So we downloaded the font, and so there's 2 different fonts. There's one with numbers and with the arrows and the starting dots, and then there's another one with just the starting dot. And then
so you can kind of progress, start with numbers and then go without the numbers would be the idea.
Yeah, I think so. And then they have a flashcard series, which is basically a full page font. So it'll take up at least half, if not 3/4 of a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And it's just one letter with the dot and the arrows so that they can practice big.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then they have a video series, and the video series teaches your child, shows your child how to write each letter using the font with the arrows, the numbers, and the starting dots.
Well, that's good for our kids who are very visual, like Bryce.
Yes. And then lastly, they have a workbook, and that contains upper and lowercase letters with pictures of objects they can choose from that start with the letter being practiced. So you'll have the letter, and then you'll have the picture with the letter. Mm-hmm. And it also contains flashcards with regular letters and pictures to go with the letters, if that makes sense. Like I said, it's hard to describe on the podcast. Also has a vocabulary list showing each letter used in a word, and a vocabulary list with pictures. So
well, we're going to put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
So people can go check it out. And didn't you say he was offering
yes,
a special?
he's offering our listeners 50% off for a limited time. So if you go on their website, alphastrokes.com, which is alphastrokes.com, and you put the items in your cart and then use the code Parenting Autism, you'll get a substantial discount, 50% off for a limited time.
Yes.
So,
and we get nothing from this?
No.
We just are endorsing it because we think it's a great tool, and he's giving half off for our listeners. So
yeah, so I didn't really, with Bryce, I didn't start off with the flashcards because he kind of knew, how do I explain it? He kind of knew the letters already.
Because he had them in school.
Yeah, he started to have them in school. So he was familiar with the letters, but we were more into making sentences at the point that I got the font.
Right.
So I wanted to use it in sentences. So we went straight to using the font itself. And so I enlarged it, I would say a little larger than what you would see on their school books and stuff as far as fonts go, because it makes the numbers bigger and the arrows bigger, and it's just easier for him to read and write that way. And I see him using the numbers to write the letters now. So it is helping him write the letters correctly
to do the strokes in the proper order.
Yes, yes, to write each individual letter in the correct way. So that has helped him a lot, and now we're writing sentences with this font, and that's kind of where we're at with it right now. And we were kind of past the associating the letter with the picture, because he kind of already knows what letters pictures start with, like A, apple, B, balloon, that type of thing. So we didn't touch on that too much, but for us, the main thing is the font itself, and it's helped us out a lot. And Bryce likes numbers, so he's all about that. But I want to give them a shout out, because and in our world of autism, that is one of our hurdles, because our kids, they don't have the hand strength to write. And then when they do get writing, it's very difficult for them. So I think anything that we can use to help them along, we do it.
I agree.
And this font is no exception. And other people will go in there and they'll see the other products that they have to offer, and you can match it up with your children's level that they're at now. If you feel like you need the flashcards or the video series, or the workbook, the workbook might be really helpful to you, but Bryce was just a little bit past that level. So, really good font. I recommend it.
Excellent. I'm glad that we're able to find these things and share them, which is a large part of why we do this podcast. Is we want to pay it forward, and as we find things, be able to share. I mean, especially like for those who are listening and their children may be 3 or 4 and they're just introducing writing to them, then you're going to be a step ahead finding a tool like this. So very cool.
And then you had one to share also, didn't you?
I do. So kind of going to what I was describing with the playground earlier today, and playing and inclusion. This book that was sent to me is called Kindness Detective, and it was written by Ashley Abeles, and illustrated by Melissa DePerry. And Ashley really had a heart for the children and finding inclusion. Like, that's really the message of it, for children of all abilities and disabilities, but especially those with disabilities that tend to get excluded. She wants them to be included, and it's teaching the children that maybe don't have disabilities to be kind to those who do, for those who are a little bit different. And so she was really nice, and the publisher offered to send me the book so that we could read it. So I did, and I have to say that for Bryce, it's probably beyond where his cognitive skills are right now. Like, I don't know how much he can get the concept of reading the book, because he can't read that well. But even going through it, I felt like he couldn't connect to that part, but we are teaching him about kindness. And with Santa and Christmas coming, the naughty list and the nice list, he really is getting that concept this year. I don't know that he understands exactly what all things are quote unquote naughty. And so I don't know that he knows, like, including someone to play would be considered nice, or kind, but other kids would. And I really recommend this book to even share with peers, that you want to learn and understand your child. Like, that's how I feel. I may give this book to my, the moms of the kids that I want to take Bryce to play with.
Yeah.
So that they can understand, okay, so Bryce may be a little bit different, but if I do this to help him, then I'm being kind. And it's really cool because they don't only just have the book, but they also have these tools to go along with it. And they have like a game that you can play. And it's also designed that it can be in a classroom. So for teachers that are trying to teach their children how, their students to include the other students that may be a little bit different, it's a really great tool for that. And I think it's for all ages, honestly. I would say ages 4, 5, 6, and especially the kids that are getting older. But it's neat. So it includes that, like with a game, and then they can get a little certificate. It's got one for a boy and one for a girl, and it's got kindness detective, and they get their name and the moment that they were being kind. So you recognize specifically what they did and who detected it, and then the date that they did it. So, they get like a little certificate for being nice. Well, I know Bryce responds very well to being rewarded. Mm-hmm. And I think most children respond better to being rewarded than to be reprimanded.
Right. Positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement all the way. And so this book really does that. It provides you tools for positive reinforcement. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes for that as well. And I would like to see this book get more recognized and get out there to all of our families, so that there can be more inclusion and more understanding of, the children that may be a little bit different. So that's what I wanted to share on that.
Cool.
And I'm thinking of the playground today and I've talked to you about this, but when I'm here in the house in the Coulter Hotel, I feel like I'm in my safe space, and I feel like here we just pretty much celebrate all of the great things that Bryce is doing. So it's a real positive environment. But when I go out of our safe space bubble, I think it's just harder to, I don't want to, ignore is the wrong word. It's just more magnified, the differences in Bryce and the behaviors that do need to be worked on. I don't see it here. And maybe because he's just with us, and we know how to avoid the triggers that set him off. We kind of, it's nice and quiet when we're here for the most part. Overall it is. He may have a game, like a new game on his iPad that he has to learn to adapt to because he might get upset and frustrated because he hasn't mastered it. So we have to kind of teach him how to have patience and not get frustrated. And we're trying to teach him emotions. And that is another thing that the ABA is working with him on, is teaching him emotions. And so like, again, I'm just giving you fresh examples, but at the park today, there was a little boy there who's 2, and Bryce knows him because it's his friend's little brother. And he didn't want to go into the baby swing. He wanted to run around, but his mom wanted him in the swing so she could have a break. So she had asked me to help put him in the swing, so I did. And he was kicking and crying and wanting to get out. So I heard another child saying, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And I thought it was his brother for a minute, but I looked and it was Bryce. And so Bryce was very concerned, and he says, "It's okay, it's okay." And then he got up and he walked over to him and he said, "It's okay, it's okay. Don't cry. It will make mommy very sad. Don't cry. It's okay. It will make mommy very sad." And he's looking at me, and I said, "Yeah, it would make me sad if you cry." And the little boy stopped, and he stopped kicking, and he stopped crying, and he just looked at Bryce, and he took in like every word that Bryce was saying. And I have to say, Bryce doesn't give a lot of face space. He gave him enough, but he was up there telling him. But he said it in such a compassionate, caring tone, which is a huge difference, because 3 months ago, if this was happening, Bryce would just start mimicking his screams and not know how to tell him that he wanted him to stop. But today he said it in such a nice, caring way. And he was using the word that I would be sad. Like he's recognizing those emotions. So I thought that was a big victory today, and I was very happy about that. But those are the things we're trying to teach him. He understands happy, he understands sad. but I don't think he quite understands angry, and he definitely doesn't know how to say that he's frustrated. We're building on the core emotions, with his therapist, and they're teaching him all of that. Like when I was sick, you can imagine I have a vocal cord dysfunction and a cold. So there was a lot of coughing going on, and Bryce hates it when I cough. It irritates him. We've talked about that before on other podcasts. So anyway, but he didn't understand the emotion, and he was saying that he thought I was angry. And I think I could hear you trying to explain to him, Mommy's okay. She's not angry. She's just sick and she's coughing. And, so it's really hard for him to understand emotions. It does not come natural to him. And I understand that that's the case with a lot of kids that are on the spectrum. Not only can they not read emotions, but they don't even understand their own emotions to be able to express them. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely something I'm grateful to have ABA back in our lives to help him with those kind of things, because I don't think we realized what all we need them for. And I think we're going to continue to learn what we need their help with, with his behaviors and things.
I mean, they're definitely helping us with life skills, as well as behaviors. But like you said, I think right now they're getting acclimated to Bryce being at home and learning about Bryce. And then probably in the next week or two, we'll go outside the home, and they can experience his behaviors and kind of show us how to overcome those situations that we get into.
Yeah, like yesterday, we went out in public and left the safe space. And he actually did really well at the hotel, and he didn't even have to do all the floors, which was a big deal for us. But when I went...
Oh, let's talk about that, because you said, I told him that he can do all the floors, so we should do all the floors. And I said, well, he hasn't mentioned it since we've been here, so let's not feed that behavior. Let's not say anything about it. And you said, well, what happens if he remembers and, we're already halfway down the road, and we'll just have to tell him that elevator didn't do all the floors, or, come up with something to redirect him, because you don't want to unknowingly feed into a behavior that isn't, air quotes, appropriate.
Yeah. Well, and where that came from was the night before.
Or not appropriate.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The night before, he had on, the day before, I should say, he had on his list to do a car wash. And when he realized that we didn't do a car wash that day, which we intentionally didn't bring it up, the car wash was closed. Literally, he was so sad, and the tears were coming down his face. Yeah. So you wisely said, well, you want to go to the car wash? He's like, yes. So we're like, okay. So we went, and he could see that the cones were there and that it was closed, and they were actually outside spraying. So he knows we tried, but he understood that they were closed, and he recovered from that.
Yeah, they were outside cleaning.
Which was great. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want that to happen where he realized, oh, man, I didn't get to do all the floors, and then we were halfway down the highway, and we weren't going to turn around and go back.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to avoid, but you were right.
In that case, we were able to go by the car wash so he could see that they were closed, and that really dissolved that right away. We probably would have had more of a difficult time being away from home or being away from the elevator. If that had come back up, we would have really had to try to redirect him.
It could have been ugly,
something else,
but thankfully he didn't. And so to me, that is a sign of progress that he didn't have to do all the floors.
Right. And the next time we go to a hotel,
we won't mention it.
We won't mention it. We'll see if it comes up.
And he used to do hotel tours, and now he doesn't have to do a complete tour of everything at the hotel, but we got a mini tour in the room, and he told us every single thing that was in there, and I thought that was just adorable and okay.
Cute. But you're right, we don't have to see the fitness center anymore. We don't have to see the business center anymore. We don't have to see the swimming pool, so he doesn't have to take us around to every different room at the hotel, which is great now.
Which does progress in the right way.
Yep.
So, it was those kind of things. But when we did go to the mall, there was a slight regression because he is, well, I don't know if it's a regression, but we're not always around escalators. We are around elevators a lot, but we're not around escalators a lot. Okay, so he really does love the escalator because he's mechanical, and a lot of kids like him. Even kids that have no neurotypical issues love escalators and elevators. But Bryce, he's getting older, and it's a little more obvious when he's going up and down and up and down and up and down. But it's not just that. When I took him yesterday, I knew we would do it a couple times because it's his thrill, and I have no problem that he gets to do something that he likes because I'm shopping. So in fair turn, we'll do the escalator a couple times, but then you have to go shopping with me while I do one store, and then we'll do something else. So we had a trade-off plan, and it was working well. Well, I didn't realize that he felt like he needed to go onto the escalator every time there were people going on it. Okay, I thought it was just for him. But now it's developed to where he feels that they're in danger unless he's on the escalator with them. So I learned that when I said, no, buddy, let's go, and I did the old count of 5, 4, and I said it gently because he does not like to be reprimanded, and I get that. But I really wanted to try to break his thought process because he was so stuck on it. And then he started to walk away, and his lip came out and the tears came up, and he just started crying. And he says, but the people, it's dangerous. It's the people. So I said, okay. And then he was able to tell me enough that I realized he felt like they weren't safe without him. So I said, okay, well, and then somebody was coming. I mean, he's like darting across the store because he feels like he has to get there right away. Now, if somebody's not expecting him to come, it's startling. And it's startling enough getting on an escalator, because it's a moving contraption. Mm-hmm. But he would get literally on the step behind them, and I couldn't stop him by the time he got there. So then I'm like 2 or 3 steps behind trying to inch up. And he doesn't want me walking on an escalator because that's not safe. So, I have to do it when he's not looking to keep up with him. And it was kind of awkward. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. It was a little awkward, especially when I got some looks from people that didn't get it at all. But then for those who don't get it at all, you have those super kind people that they don't care, or they just say, oh, he's got a lot of energy, or, oh, he is a boy, or, that sort of thing. They were worried about his safety too, because he was getting more comfortable and, starting to stem a little. I'm like, no, you have to hold the rail. But it was more about, I was concerned that he felt like he had to keep them safe. So, I had to work through that. But once we got the people up and then we got the people down, thank God there were no more people. So I had a small break where I could explain to him and get him moved away. But that's something new, that I haven't run into before. And it's something I'm going to have to learn how to, get out without making a whole big scene and helping him understand that.
So, that reminds me of when we went to see Santa last week. I was kind of in charge of Bryce for a little while at the mall after the pictures. And so we were going up and down the escalators and the elevators. And we really didn't have any issues. And most everyone was very kind. It reminded me, before we did the escalators this year, I had a flashback to last year. And I remember that when we got to the bottom of the one escalator, he would want to run over to the start of the other escalator to go up.
That's what happened yesterday.
So I put the squash on that. I told him that if he wanted to ride the escalators, he would have to hold my hand in between escalators, and we would walk to the next escalator. So he couldn't run. He had to walk with me. He had to hold my hand. And he did. And he would pull on me at the end when we were getting very close to the escalator. And if I saw that nobody was there that he could interrupt, I would let go of his hand and he could run the few steps to get onto the escalator by himself. And he liked getting on by himself and he did not like me standing on the same step as him.
Right.
I had to be one step behind him, which was fine because if anything went wrong, I could grab him from there. But he did very well. And even when we got up to the top, and it's a long walk over to the start of the other escalator going down, he listened to me that first time, and I really didn't have to repeat myself again after that. And he was very good. And we did it several times. So I
must have been weak.
Maybe he was playing you.
Maybe. Because I tried the holding the hand thing too,
Yeah.
But he did break away the one time, and I think the one time he broke away so quickly was when he was having his crying moment. Like, he was genuinely so upset, and then he saw somebody, and he had to like go to their rescue. Which apparently you didn't have that issue last week. So why he feels he has to rescue people now and keep them safe, I don't know. Yeah,
I did feel like there was the thing where he had to get on the escalator with the other people, but I had a grip on him until the last few steps, and he knew that he wasn't going to tear away from me, and that I was in charge, and he wasn't, so
he definitely knew he had the upper hand with me, and it's not that he always does, but it was because I was wanting to keep him in a happy mood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. I did not want to make a scene in this particular store.
Well, if you get to the point...
It was very busy there.
Where he starts getting upset and crying, then...
I didn't want to have to pick him up and carry him out. And without you there, it does make a big difference. I mean, he's over 50 pounds now and 4 feet tall. And I just can't lift him up and carry him the way that you can when that happens. And again, it's not like he was being bad.
He was sad.
It was because he got emotional on me and because he explained that he thought he needed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having fun with it. And
you just have to
as long as he's not affecting other people. I know.
That's the issue is we live in Florida and there's a lot of elderly people down here. And
so it's hard.
You don't want to startle somebody like that's getting ready to go on an escalator. It could be
dangerous. Seriously,
goodness, if they fell,
legit dangerous.
Yeah.
I know. So that was kind of my minor stress point yesterday. I mean, I'm not saying it was out of control because it wasn't, but I'm always relieved when I get back home and I don't have to deal with those issues. And I will actually take what happened yesterday and I will learn from that and build upon that for the next time. Mm-hmm. He kind of caught me off guard because it was something new and different. And then going the weekend, of Black Friday, whatever color Saturday that it was, it was busier. The mall was busier than it typically would be. Mm-hmm. And we were out of town and it was at a really busy mall. And I haven't even gone to a mall to do shopping, like real shopping like that, in a really long time. And I certainly haven't done it with him. Right. So it was a learning experience all the way around. We survived. I mean, I was able to distract him with getting to do the little race car machine that they have in the middle of the mall. You know how they have the toys there. You can put $1 in and ride that. That worked. And then while I was actually shopping and trying on clothes, he was playing my phone. And then I got him to the food court. And then, thank God, by that time you were done at the car show and it was time to go. So, I kept him occupied for 3 hours, and that was a long time in that world to do that by myself. Yeah. In an unfamiliar environment. So anyway, that's kind of like, some headlines and highlights that have been going on in our world and how we're working through things. I mean, we get new things that pop up on the horizon all the time. And what we deal with when he's 6 is different than what we dealt with when he was 2 or when he was 3 or even 4. And not only that, as I mentioned, he's much larger in size. And so that makes a big difference because when he wants to resist you, it's a lot easier for him to resist. If he doesn't want to move, I can't move him as easily as I could 2 years ago. It's a big difference. Yeah. So, we're growing into that, and I realize we have a lifetime ahead of us, and we're continuing to learn, And we'll continue to share as we learn. But, you know, when we went to dinner the other night, we were talking about Thanksgiving, and I started saying some things I was really thankful for. And you're like, we should do a podcast where we just say all the things we're thankful for. And I think we should. And I'd like to end on that note, just kind of bouncing back and forth things that we're thankful for.
Yeah. And, you know, back to what you're saying about how he was different between now and a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like some type of graph, I guess, if you look at it, where he's gaining language, and with that, behaviors, I feel, are diminishing because he's able to tell us more about the situation, and we're able to communicate with him about that. So I feel like where when he wasn't able to talk to us, you know, the meltdowns.
Agree.
He would drop to the floor.
Right. We don't have that.
And he wasn't able to tell us what was going on. But I feel like as he's getting older and as he's able to communicate with us, things are getting somewhat easier. And it's those two things coming together, him getting older and being able to communicate.
Well, and the cognitive part, which is huge, you know, the more he can understand why we're asking him to do things we're asking him to do, and why he shouldn't do the things that we're asking him not to do, that helps. Mm-hmm. And he does seem, so it's not even just language, but it's also understanding.
Yeah, and I think right now when we explain things to him, he stops and he's thinking.
He is, and he seems to understand a lot more than he used to. And then there's times I can say things to him and it's a blank stare. I mean, he's not getting it.
Right.
But definitely he is understanding more, and that does make things easier.
Yep. Just remember to use the words that they know, you know, and then you know that you're getting that message through to them.
Yeah. So I will start with saying that I am very thankful that he is understanding more. It is. That's not something to be taken lightly. And I do feel like in the world of autism, it seems to be a mutual agreement among parents that we celebrate things that other parents may not celebrate. And even those who have children, some on the spectrum, some that aren't, they celebrate more with their child that is on the spectrum because they understand that it's so much harder for them to learn and understand things that don't come natural, you know. But I also heard someone saying, you know, it's not Bryce's fault that he thinks differently. And he legitimately may think we're off our rockers because we're not thinking the way he's thinking. So who's to say who's right and who's wrong? In his mind, he's right? And in our minds, we're right. So it's coming to that happy medium of helping him understand, again, why we're saying the things we're saying and why we're saying that's not a right thing to do or an appropriate thing to do. But then as he can help us understand why he's doing the things he's doing, like when he could tell me he wanted to get on the escalator for the people, that helped me know why he was doing what he was doing. It doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with it, but at least I know where he's coming from, and then he can know where I'm coming from, and we'll learn to come to some type of mutual agreement. But yeah, I'm really, really grateful that we're entering this part of the journey to where we can have more understanding of each other and how each other is thinking.
Yes, and I'm grateful for, get ready for this, drum roll please, and I think other parents can agree that we're thankful that our kids don't need the latest fashion statement, the latest tennis shoes that are popular, the popular toys, because let's face it, they don't really know what's popular. And so that's kind of a blessing. It
is kind of a blessing. And we're talking about what they're wanting. And with Bryce for Christmas, he does not have a list that he put together for Santa. He has no needs that he realizes that he wants other than these games that pop up on his iPad that he wants to buy. Honestly, that's all he knows. In fact, he asked for Domino's from Santa because we planted that seed in his mind because he's been watching all these rally domino videos, which I guess is a big thing. And so we put together his list, but he will have no disappointments other than dominoes because we planted that seed. But it's not like he's going to, if he doesn't get everything that he quote unquote wants, that he'll be ungrateful. And I've seen so many children that it's like that.
Right. And so he'll just be oblivious if he doesn't get something that he's not expecting, you know. So he has been watching those videos on YouTube with the dominoes, and I don't think it's as popular as it used to be long ago when they set up all these elaborate tracks and the dominoes fall over, but it's something that has piqued his interest, and we told him that he might want to ask Santa for that for Christmas, so he's been on board with that.
Yeah, he's very excited about it, and we're looking forward to Christmas Day and doing dominoes with him. Yeah. I mean, we feel like we have a little boy for the first time this year that is actually going to feel like he's getting the concept that Santa has the sleigh. Well, he loves things in the sky. You know, he likes shuttles, rockets, airplanes, helicopters. So the fact that Santa has a sleigh that flies out in outer space, he thinks that's really cool. And he's watching Polar Express, so he knows that there's toys on the sleigh. He doesn't quite get the concept. Like we keep saying, the elves are going to make your dominoes. You know, we're trying to help him understand it just because it's kind of fun, you know. And for us, it's a big deal, you know, that we're progressing, you know. It's a little bit more each Christmas.
Yeah, he's not oblivious anymore to Christmas.
No, I think
this year is going to be fun.
This year, he's going to be expecting a gift. He's going to expect dominoes under the tree.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting to watch him open them up and think that Santa brought those for him.
Yeah, and when we tell him that the tag said it's from Santa.
Yeah. And you know, for our Christian beliefs, we're also teaching him that this is Jesus' birthday, because we want him to know that for sure. And we have our manger scene out, and he knows all the people and the angel and Mary. He told me Joseph is God because it's Jesus' dad. I think he's putting that. That's fine. And we'll make a birthday cake for Jesus, and we'll sing happy birthday to Jesus. So for us, this has been a really, really great time of year. And we even put the tree up early to remove some stress. So I'm thankful for that. I am thankful that we are figuring things out and how to remove stress from our lives.
Yeah, and that's going into 2020. Simplify is our word. And
yes.
I didn't realize how much stress that relieved setting our tree up, a week before Thanksgiving, was it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks before Thanksgiving?
Before.
I said, why not? You know, let's extend the joy season. And what a great thing that was to do, because guess what? Thanksgiving weekend, we didn't have really anything to do because we had it all set up, and we get to enjoy it for more time. And it was just a stress reliever. I didn't realize how much stress it would relieve, you know, and it did.
It did. And now we don't feel like we're in a rush and
so
hurrying.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that. And, you know, specifically with autism, if I'm going to say that I'm thankful for, I am thankful that Bryce continues to teach me how to look at life in a different way. And one of those is he is much more slow-paced in his thinking and his actions. Hey, bub.
That's balloons.
You see the balloons? Are they bringing down the presents? He is watching Polar Express. He is obsessed, and it's so sweet. But so I see things through Bryce's eyes, and I've learned to slow down and enjoy life more. And that would be an example. I sat on the couch with him, cuddled up last night. And it's a big deal because Bryce has not taken any interest in movies. I know a lot of kids on the spectrum are watching movies over and over, especially Disney movies. This is his first
movie that
This is the first one.
Understood and enjoyed.
He was telling me about what was coming up in the movie next because he's watched it a couple times with other people. And I've been in and out of the room. It was so enjoyable last night, but I'm really seeing life through his eyes and how he sees things and how he keeps life simple without all the stress. And I am thankful for that gift that autism has given me that I don't know that I would otherwise have if I was in a typical parenting situation.
Yeah, and you know what else is in our world? We don't have to set expectations. I think expectations are placed on typical kids because they develop in a typical way. But with autism, it's a whole different ballgame, and you just follow along with how they're developing, and you feed on what they're interested in. And then that brings more language about whatever that subject is. You know, you don't, I'm not going to set an expectation that he's going to learn 2 + 3 = 5 by the time he turns 6.5. You know, I'm not going to put that on him as a burden. I'm going to teach him at his pace, and we'll progress that way, you know.
And so that leads me in to say I am very thankful that we are in a position that you can homeschool him, because I recognize that there are parents that want to do that. Some are dependent on 2 incomes, and you know, maybe they feel like they can't do it. Would it be nice for us to have 2 incomes? Well, it's always easier if you have more money for, you know, certain things. But you and I were already being spirit-led to write up a budget and to really try to just work off of my income, the one that we know we're going to have. And then if other income comes from our photography or other gifts or, you know, side jobs or things like that come in, great. But we really felt like we were being led to become disciplined. And I see now that God was doing that, because even though we thought you were going to go back into the workforce once Bryce started kindergarten, he knew that you would be teaching Bryce and that your job was to teach Bryce. And I'm so thankful that you have found your calling, because I see just the difference in you just stand taller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you feel so fulfilled and so thrilled to teach your son every day. Bryce wants to do school every day at the playground
he talks
today.
about it all the time.
I told you at the playground today, they have like this speaker you speak into. So he's speaking into the speaker so everyone can hear the echo. And it's like, Daddy's school tomorrow. Daddy's school tomorrow, and Miss Kim and Miss Melanie are coming at the same time. Yay, Daddy's school, you know? So it was like, he's so excited to do school tomorrow with you. Yeah. And this is his day off, but that's what he thinks about. And
you know,
it's super, super sweet.
I think it's relieved a burden on me not knowing what is going on at school when he goes to school. You know, when he was going to the public school, we didn't know if we were going to get a phone call. We didn't know what the next fire drill was going to bring. We didn't know we were going to be called into the office saying he's not keeping up. You know, we didn't know that they couldn't give him more OT and more speech. You know, all that is done. And what a relief that I know what's going on because I'm teaching him. And he's learning at his own pace. And we've got all of his therapies set up right now. It's just like a well-oiled machine.
It is.
Without worry.
It is. And so I'm extremely thankful that we've made it through that fire, because it was a bit of a fire, and that we have landed on our feet right where we're supposed to be. And again, that we're able to do it, because I don't take it for granted that we're in a financial position that it's working.
Right.
You know, do we live lavishly? No, we do not.
It's a challenge.
But
and
we live
it.
well, and our needs are met, and, you know, even a little bit beyond our needs at times. And we're grateful for that. Does it take discipline? Yes, it does take discipline. Every dollar counts in our home. We need to know where it goes. But it's the trade-off of you being able to teach him and help him learn the way he needs to learn.
Yeah.
You can't put a price on that, and I'm very thankful for that.
You know, and I want to mention something really quick that's helped us a lot with our budgeting. And, you know, we don't make any money off of our plugs. We just tell you what helps us.
Yeah.
And what has helped us is Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. You know, us as married people with children on the spectrum, we have enough stress in our lives with our kids that we don't need money to be one of those. And Dave, he goes through it step by step, and he shows you how to do it the right way to where you can live on what you're making and budget accordingly, you know, for retirement or for whatever the next big purchase is, and how to get out of debt, you know. And it's really helped us. And I highly recommend his Financial Peace University. That really helped us.
It does. And I think getting both partners on the same page, and then we blame it on Dave and not each other, it helps too, you know? Like,
yeah.
Because usually there's one that's the spender and one that is, they call the nerd. I don't know how that falls for both of us. It kind of goes, we're probably a little more similar, but it's still, Chris will want to spend the extra dollars on X while I might want to spend it on Y. Mm-hmm. So we have to learn that compromise, and we've put together a list. So if we do have extra money, we know exactly where it goes, and it kind of falls where it meets both of our desires for that, you know, above and beyond the needs. So it eliminates any disagreements or any resentment or, you know, things that can come with finances, because like you said, having autism in the home is enough stress. We do not need the added burden of financial stress and the communication about that.
Right.
So,
and when we went on that budget, we said we're going to do it Dave's way. So if there's any questions that come up about where money goes or where it's supposed to go, we refer to Dave.
We refer to the plan.
And Dave prevents arguing. So because Dave is the final word. So
and he's very biblical based. So
is,
you know, for us being Christians, we appreciate that as well. But we really do refer back to, okay, what does the plan say? Mm-hmm. You know, what does not what Sandy says, not what Chris says. So it's worked out really good. So, you know, we have so much to be thankful for that it could take 4 hours, and we don't have 4 hours to give. But I'm thankful just for my life where it is right now, and I can't say that I would go back and change anything, because if I did, then I wouldn't experience what I'm experiencing now
and appreciate it.
And I definitely have a whole different perspective and appreciation for my family, for my son, for you, even for myself, and just all that we're going through. And I'm appreciative of being able to do this podcast and the friends that I'm making through this podcast, and you know, being able to help people. That's in both of our DNA, and I'm really grateful we're able to do this. And I do want to see this go bigger in 2020, and I believe that it will. And we're trying to work on ways to reach more people, because I am thankful that we're not alone on this journey. And that's probably the last one I will wrap up with. But I am thankful for each family that I encounter that also has a child on the spectrum, because it can feel lonely. Sometimes even your closest friends and even people in your family can't quite understand what it's like unless you're living it.
Right. I mean,
know?
they just
care.
They see everything that we're doing to prevent behaviors. They don't necessarily see the meltdowns if we were to treat our children as typical children in certain situations. You know, you can't.
They might question the way we parent at times.
Yeah, that's
right?
That's exactly it. They might question the way we parent because, oh, that deserves a spanking, or, you know, this or that. And, well, that you can't do that. And it's hard to explain, but if you really want to see why we can't do that, I'll do it. No, I wouldn't do that. But, you know, they don't understand that you don't want to go down that road because it's going to be a bad road. So we do what we can to prevent that from happening. And front of other people.
Sure.
Yeah.
We try to protect others,
Yeah,
from
exactly.
witnessing it, really. We're doing it for you.
Yeah.
But when you meet another family and you're with them and your child's doing whatever they're doing and their child's doing whatever they're doing, and you don't feel like you have to explain.
Right.
And you don't feel like you have to apologize.
Right.
And you don't feel like you have to intercede. That's a blessing. It really is. So I'm very, very thankful for our autism community and the beautiful families that we've met.
Awesome. So on that note, I think we can sign off. And I think, we've kind of gone over our normal time zone.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go now. So enjoy the rest of your day or evening, whatever you're doing. But we hope you'll tune back in and enjoy this holiday season. Let's learn from our kids and move at a slower pace.
Yes. Think on everything that
Think
is
on
good.
everything that is good and really just take time to enjoy the season. That's what we want to end with today. All right.
All right. We're out of here until next time. Episode 29 in the books.
It's in the books.
See ya.
Bye.